Welcome to the Wisconsin Wrestler Podcast with your co-hosts Teague Fenwick and Steve Lurkwood.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wisconsin Wrestler Podcast. I'm your host, Teague Fenwick, coming to you from Holmen. Joining me, as always, from Waterloo is my co-host, Steve Lurkwin. Steve, great to be here.
Pumped to be here, man. It's Team State tournament time. It's what makes the hangover of individual state being over a little bit more bearable, knowing that you have Team State coming up this week, Teague.
Oh, yeah. No, Team State. The last event of the year, Steve, you got to get up for it. And there's not many atmospheres like the Field House on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, if somebody's never been there, they got to check it out. It's they got high school bands there just jamming out, and it's the atmosphere is second to none.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a fun one. Steve, tonight for our Team State preview, for those of you that haven't listened or watched the show before, we basically just run through not only all the matchups, we do make some picks, but also we run through hypothetically what if a duel goes the other way, if we think it could go the other way strongly enough. So we talk a little bit about, we try to talk about every duel that could potentially happen. I think there was one year we almost missed one. It was the Holmen Slinger year, Steve. I gave you crap for picking Slinger, and we talked about the duel, and Slinger ended up winning. So glad we did talk about it. But yeah, Steve, this one it's we were talking beforehand. I feel like I did a little less research on it than I did the first year, where I go through and try to figure out everything that can happen, because A, the most unexpected things happen at Team State that can absolutely change things.
Yep.
And B, we're at the mercy of not knowing lineups. Obviously, we can try to pull what we can from track for the Team State and team sectional lineups, but knowing the coaches, I mean, we've had a few of these coaches at Team State on the show. We know how their brains work, Steve. There's a reason we're here doing the podcasting, right?
Right.
These coaches are about 15 steps ahead of us, to say the least. So I know in previous years we've gone really in depth on like potential moves that could be made or whatnot. We still do that a little bit this year, but not as much, because there's a chance it just all gets blown out of the water. All it takes is one or two guys weighing in at different weights. So we have a little bit of fun with this one. I would say we definitely don't make friends with this one, but that's the fun of it, right?
Not making friends because we pick against people. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Although it's hard.
Last year we picked a tough one that not a lot of people, they thought we were crazy, and we ended up being right. So that built the confidence a little bit.
Which one was that? I don't remember.
That was a Holmen Marshfield, after Marshfield beat them by like 25 points.
Oh, sure.
Earlier in the year, and Holmen did a little lineup change and whatnot, and we thought it would happen. A lot of people didn't, and glad we were right. Otherwise, we would have ate a lot of crow there. But that's the fun of it. I think the most fun part, Steve, we can agree on, is watching these teams that duke it out. So,
yep, it's a lot of fun.
What do you say? Enough of my rambling here, and we get into the Team State action. So, for individual state, we did start off with the girls in D3. So we're going to start off with Division 1 for this one. Going to run through the whole D1 bracket / potential bracket. So starting off here, number 1 is seeded Kaukauna versus number 8 seed Waukesha West. And it seems like we're telling the same tale every year with Kaukauna being the 1 seed. But now you got the stats on Waukesha West Team State appearances, Steve. Just coming in and going against Kaukauna, it's kind of like that 1-8 matchup that we see every year. Waukesha West, they could maybe have a couple of fun matches, could get a couple wins out of it even, but it's one of those where, honestly, like, if you see them, if Kaukauna wrestles all their guys, if Waukesha West gets to double digits, like 15, 18 points, then you got to call it a good duel for them. And that's just I think that's more about the state of Kaukana's program than anything. I got the duel score projected at about 47-6, being a little light on bonus points. could see a couple of fun matches. I know Crook did place at state, Kuwakinen didn't, but Xander Kuwakinen, Liam Crook potentially at 160 pounds. That could be a match we see some fun action. I see Waukesha West picking up maybe a win or two in the lower weights and maybe a win in the upper weights as well. But, yeah, that's the analysis I have on that one.
Yeah, what I'm looking for, I mean, I think your analysis is pretty spot on, but what I'm looking for from Waukesha West is exactly what we saw last year, Teague, with Franklin. I think Franklin, what impressed me most about them is that their backs were against the wall, behind the 8 ball, so to speak. Use whatever phrase you want, out the creek with all the paddle, whatever it is. But Franklin impressed me because their guys were there to wrestle. They got after it, and that's it, right? That shows character by being a team that's down and not laying down for anybody. But like I said, that's what we're hoping to see out of Waukesha West. First trip since 1997, and that's the building block, Teague. We talked about the Waukesha triumvirate, right? That whole area and how they're growing together. This is a springboard for them. They haven't been there in over 20 years, 25 to be exact, right? And they're I would look at this as being, hey, we're down here for experience. We're going to go give them heck. And right, I mean, there's always a chance. There's always a chance. Good things start happening. You get a little momentum on your side. But like I said, with Waukesha West, that's what we're looking for. Just tail the tape, so to speak. Teague, Waukesha West, second team trip. They've had 5 state qualifiers this year. And I did see that Waukesha West and Kaukauna down at state had no head-to-head matchups as far as, guys going against each other. But Teague, listen to this tail of the tape with Kaukauna. 23 individual state champs, 21 trips to team state. Of that, when they went, they had 6 championships and 4 runner-ups. And this year at state, they had 9 qualifiers. And a stat I found on their qualifiers, Teague, obviously they had 2 state champs, but they had 5 medalists. And on the weekend, they went 21-11. They won 21 matches and lost 11. That's a pretty good trip down to the Kohl Center.
Yeah, I would say so. Also, speaking of that, I did get to talk to the Waukesha West coaches this week, and they recognize that the whole Waukesha area is getting tougher with the sport. I think kind of like Brookfield East we saw a couple years ago, you make a couple trips, you build a good core, and you just keep improving on the experience. So that's what we got for Kaukauna and Waukesha West. Next up, we got 4th seeded Muskego taking on 5th seed at Germantown. And Steve, I know Nate and Jake talked about it earlier, so we won't get too much in on it. But with Talon Schutte being out for Germantown, I think it makes this one definitely a little more interesting than folks thought it was going to be. Muskego, I think, even more so than the team they brought to state last year. They're a pretty well-rounded team. It's hard to find pretty big holes in their lineup. And I could see this being a pretty low-scoring duel. I have it 27-21 at Germantown. The one thing Germantown has that they have the same setup going is they can kind of switch between Jacob Momper and Ethan Riddle at 170 and 182. So I think for that one, I have Momper at 170, Riddle at 182 to try and maximize points there. And I have it Germantown by 6, but that's with Muskego getting 6 wins. I think there's a couple spots where maybe Muskego does pick up another win. I don't know if Muskego uses the move, but they have Mason Drought as a backup. Well, they used him as a backup like in some of their lineups. So I'll wonder if he gets utilized. But I think the name of the game for Muskego, if they do want to beat Germantown, is to get bonus points. And I think just given when you're looking at things, I think you go light on bonus points because you don't know when a pin's going to come or a major's going to happen out of nowhere. But
right,
if Muskego can rack up bonus points, they can beat Germantown. But I still think even without Schutte, Germantown definitely they have the weapons and just the overall team depth to take out Muskego.
Agreed, Teague. But it's all in that one match, right? That one match that doesn't go the way you expect it, and then everything goes into chaos. Tail the tape with these two teams. Germantown, this is their first first trip to team state. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
But,
sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say a lot of I think there's a few new teams first trip to team state this year as you'll get into. And also,
Right.
Steve, I saw on the forum 10 of the 16 qualifiers this year weren't at Team State last year. So
Yes.
that's for folks that are newer to wrestling. If you see a lot of fresh faces, that is why.
I love it. I love it. But first trip, 6 state qualifiers this past year. They had 4 medalists, and talking about their trip to individual state, they were 14-10 on the weekend. No head-to-head matchups with Muskego, but this is Muskego's 11th trip to Team State. They were champs back in 1994. And Teague, say what you want, and you can talk about performance down at state, which Muskego wasn't necessarily what they want, but you still had 10 state qualifiers. And when you have 10 state qualifiers, that gives you a solid team to work with. So I look at this being a pretty darn close duel and an exciting one in that first round. And Teague, and people can chat in. Maybe they'll figure it, or maybe they'll be able to chime in on their picks if Teague pauses just a little bit. Germantown and Muskego, 2 pretty historical programs, right? Who has the most individual state champs, Germantown or Muskego?
Muskego went on a pretty big run at some point, and I know they had a couple state champs when I started viewing wrestling, so I might have that bias. But okay, Germantown, I guess, also does have 4 from Thilke, but I'm still gonna ride with Muskego on that one.
Yeah, good call. I went with this trivia because I thought you were gonna bite on the Thilke, that he was going to sway you over there. Yeah, but 6-10 as far as state champs. So this is going to be an exciting one. Matt Verbatim makes a prediction. He's saying Germantown 34-24. Teague, speaking of a guy at Team State who has done some crazy flip-flopping and moving state champs up 2 different weight classes, Matt Verbatim from Wrightstown is listening into the show. So thanks, Matt, for your comments.
Yeah, if anyone knows about that conversation, it's definitely Matt. He would be one if Wrightstown makes it a Team State. I don't even know if I take a chance on predicting where the Wrightstown kids go. Man, thank you for tuning in, man. Speaking of that real quick, I saw a guy that I thought was Matt, and I was like, Matt, what's up? And this was at the Kohl Center, and right away I saw the look on his face. I'm like, never mind, you're not Matt. And
you're not Matt.
And, I was like, thought you were Matt Verbatim. He's like, I've been called a lot worse. So that was a funny moment there. But all right, Steve, moving on to the 3 versus 6, Marshfield versus McGuanago. And yes. Marshfield, a great dual team. They're just built for duels. They've really built themselves to be good in this format the last couple of years. But even on the flip side, Steve, we've always viewed McGuanago as a good duel team. It seems like they almost do nothing but dual tournaments throughout the year. Their coach gets them ready for this moment. So you have 2 teams that are well built for these situations. And when I did a first run through, I had 29-29 actually for Marshfield and McGuanago, but I did have McGuanago taking 8 matches out of 14. I do think there's a couple of places where if I maybe did a little more research, Marshfield has a couple of guys that could grab a win, whether it be at maybe even 20 or 20. It'd be tougher at 20 if it was Ledden versus Whipple, but Jace Kellenhofer and Alex Needham at 26. Steve, we love our unsung heroes. 2 guys with about 500 records going at it. That's going to be a big swing match in this one. I'm kind of looking at Marshfield between 38 and 70. They got to pick up a lot of bonus points, but that's what that part of their lineup is built for. And then I think if Marshfield can steal a win elsewhere, then this duel is there. So I know I had a tie duel. Like I said, my spreadsheet's more or less a basis, and then I go with my pick off of that one. So I would give the edge to Marshfield in this one, but I think Coach Cody C knows that they can't fall asleep at the wheel in the first round. Oh, also, I think for McGuanago, too, I have Nick Needham inserted into their lineup at it would be either 6 or 13 because they have Catsby and Nick Needham, who both weighed in at 106 throughout the year. We could maybe see Josie Sikowski in the lineup as well. I don't know, maybe if there's a Sikowski and then Whipple bumps or something along those lines. But, yeah, McGuanago can do some things in the lower weights to bump around to give them ideal matchups. But ultimately, Steve, I do think this one comes down to just, who can wrestle better.
Absolutely. And for this particular one, I hope the draw is at 106 pounds because I think Adrian Kruger and Grant Stromberg are going to be one heck of a duel. I know you gave the nod to Grant Stromberg, but Teague, wouldn't it be awesome, with the packed place and it comes down to heavyweight in the match, whoever wins it between those two, they advance to the semifinals. I think that would be awesome. The place would be electric. But little tail of tape between these two different teams. Marshfield, 12 individual champs. This is their 7th trip to Team State. They made the semis 4 times, including last year. 8 state qualifiers this year, 5 medalists, Teague. Pretty good result for them down at state because they went 17-11 on the weekend. McGuanago has 9 individual state champs. This is their 11th trip to Team State. They were runner-ups 2019 and 20. They had 4 state qualifiers this past weekend with 2 medalists.
All right, the next duel we have is Bayport versus Reedsburg. Last duel for round.
Sorry. Teague, give a little prediction. Matt agrees with you. He said Marshfield 31, Matt Verbatim 31, McGuanago 28. Matt, we're going to write these down and keep in receipts.
Last duel that we have in the first round of D1 is Bayport versus Reedsburg. And Steve, this is, I would say, in recent history, I know Steve started in 2018. This does have the potential, I think, to be the best 2-7 duel that we've seen. And on the flip side, Bayport does have a really good team. So Bayport's still going to have to wrestle well if they want to win this one. I do have it 8-6 in favor of Bayport for matches, and right now I have the score 34-19 in favor of Bayport. The one thing on paper it looks like, and I know you looked at the individual matches a little more at state. Reedsburg's good in the lower weight. I mean, they're pretty good all around, I would say. Bayport's really good in the lower weights. So
right.
if you see Bayport get a lot of wins from 106 through 152, also we're doing all this based off of, we don't know the coin flip. We don't know where the duel starts at. That changes things, but we just run it hypothetically as if it starts at 106. I have Reedsburg going on a little run in the upper weights where they would need to find a way to get bonus points. And then I have Bayport maybe picking up some bonus points where the Reedsburg guys, I mean, they're tough wrestlers. If they can stave off bonus points, they can make this a duel going into the upper weight, Steve. It could be a tough, Reedsburg could make this a tough duel. But like I said, with the 15-point difference, I do think Reedsburg, A, needs to steal a couple of matches, B, stave off bonus points. And you're just asking a lot against a good Bayport team. That's what I got. I do think Landon Heim versus Trainer Curtin at 106. That could very well go Curtin's way. That can make the duel closer with what I have. And I don't know if that was a matchup that happened at state. But, yeah, the lower weight, Steve, is. Yeah. I think the lower weights is basically going to tell the tale of this duel.
Yeah. You're right. I'm looking at the scoring you have, and there easily could be some switches, and or flips, and that's what makes it interesting. To answer your question, Teague, there were no head-to-head matchups. Not a lot of head. In fact, I think out of all the teams that are going first round, there were no head-to-head. There were no head-to-head matchups at state. So Teague agrees with you. I'm sorry, Matt agrees with you. He says 37-17. But let's talk about the tail of the tape. These are two. As you study these squads, Bayport and Reedsburg. Both of them have kind of historical programs, right? Reedsburg, not as much on the team side, but always a strong team. This is Reedsburg's first trip to Team State, but they have 15 individual state champions. This past year, they had 6 state qualifiers with 2 medals. Bayport, one of those programs up in the northeast part of the state, just I've always battled up in there, obviously with Pulaski and Kaukauna, and a lot better team that as far as trips to state, but they haven't had as many, but look who they've been behind over the past few years. This is their 3rd trip. They were runner-up in 2014. They lost in the finals to Kaukauna. They have 17 individual champs. This past year, they had 5 state qualifiers and 2 medals, 1 finalist.
Steve, the one thing I love when you talk about upset wins, whether it be teams or individuals, you always got to add in, like, for folks outside of this area. And I think if Reedsburg wins, I think it's an upset for folks outside of Reedsburg because the Beavers are going in, they're feeling confident in this one.
Right.
I know that.
Yeah,
for
they knocked
sure.
off Stoughton this year in sectionals.
All right, moving on to the second round. So I did look at Kaukauna versus Muskego and Kaukauna versus Germantown. And I think this is where you really start to see the strength of Kaukana's lineup, as I have for Kaukauna versus Muskego, it would be I had a 42-17, and Kaukauna picks up wins from a 26 all the way to 82. And yeah, again, what else is there to say about Kaukauna? Muskego could pick up some potential bonus points, maybe at the upper weights, but those are also matches Kaukauna could win as well. It's just going to be, Kaukauna is just a really good team. For the pick that we made, Kaukauna versus Germantown, I do have it as a 43-13. I think on this one, I must have put Ethan Riddle at 170 and Jacob Momper at 182. Could see a couple of fun matches in the lower weights at 106 and 113, even at 120 as well. That could maybe be a match that swings Germantown's way. Steve, if Germantown can get this to where it's a 15, 20-point duel, that's something they can go into next year feeling pretty confident in with their program.
Agreed, 100%.
Also, Steve, it's cool having Germantown up. If they do make the semifinals, I know their coach was confident. After we did Ultimate Team Say, he's like, hey, thanks for the recognition. We think we can be a top 8 team in the state next year. This would put them in that top 4 category. So that'd be,
that's right.
I mean, just good things for the Germantown program right now. All right, our other semifinal. This one have Bayport. Looking at Bayport Mukwonago first, the one that we didn't pick. Again, Mukwonago, a team that's built to survive in duels. I have this one a little lower scoring. I have it 33-15. And I just think the thing here with Mukwonago is just finding the 7 wins is going to be the tougher part for them. They can be fine with bonus points, but you got to find a way to get to 7. I think right now I have it at 10-4. They could potentially steal a win in the lower weights. The guys are talented enough, I'd say. When you talk about Bayport's lower weights, the guys that they're going against are good. But you also don't just, when you're making picks, you don't bet against Bayport's lower weights that easy. So you could maybe see a swing match or two there that goes Mukwonago's way. 285 could maybe be a fun one. I don't know if this one happened at State, Steve, but Campbell and Stromberg. I mean, if the duel ended there, that'd be a fun way to end the duel. But Mukwonago, they got to find a way to get to 7, and it's tough against this Bayport lineup. I do think Bayport just matches up well with them, too. And then with Bayport and Marshfield, this one, I think, Steve, Marshfield might match up better against Bayport than Mukwonago than when I went through this duel. So this is if Marshfield won the toss. I did have Marshfield bumping up Blaskowski at 45. Could he maybe beat Jacob Ward? Yeah, but I don't think if you're the Marshfield coaches, you risk one of your studs getting a loss in this setting. So I think they bump Blaskowski through with Seidel up to wrestle 52 through 95. And then they grab wins there. A big Marshfield winning streak from 52 through heavyweight would be what kind of puts this duel away. And then for Bayport, it would be a matter of, so I have 8-6 here in matches. For Bayport, it'd be a matter of, if they could get to 7 wins, great. But then beating Marshfield in the bonus point battle has always been easier said than done.
Right.
So I'm giving a slight edge to Marshfield in this one. But again, they have to come out and wrestle well.
Yeah, interesting. Matt, for the first time today, disagrees with you. We know how good Matt is with making picks, but Matt says Bayport 33, Marshfield 30. And I think what's going to be a fantastic duel.
Oh, Matt. Well, hey, Matt, we're going to be talking about this one next. Oh, so you have Bayport winning. Well, good thing we are talking about both duels here. I don't know if you ran the numbers on this one. I looked a little more closely at Kaukauna and Marshfield, but with Kaukauna and Bayport, I think with being a little generous to Bayport, I do have Kaukauna 31 and Bayport 21. And it just sounds like a broken record with Kaukauna. I have them winning every match but one at 126 through 182. So there's their 7 right there. And then they just need to find a way to win one more. Bayport, if they could find a way to maybe rack up bonus points at 106 through 120, they could maybe make it a duel, keep things exciting with Kaukauna. But yeah, this one's just tough. What makes it really tough, too, is if Jacob Ward matches up on Connor Smith, Steve, which we could even see a bump there, then it's not even like a guaranteed pin, which in a dual setting, you're expecting Ward to get bonus points in some form most of the time. One thing Kaukauna has in their back pocket, too, they have Brady Sprangers, who was a backup. He wrestled some varsity tournaments. I think he won a varsity tournament or two. His record on track is 13-1. He's not even in their starting lineup, so we could see a bump there, whether it be bumping Smith up or bumping Lee up, doing something, and I think Sam Weber would leave the lineup in that situation. But, yeah, I have Kaukauna beating Bayport off the strength again of the middleweights. Kaukauna versus Marshfield, I have 33-22, and this one's just tough for Marshfield because Kaukauna has Grayson Clark at 38, and I think they probably keep him there in some way, shape, or form. Because then Marshfield, if they bump Brett Franklin up, if they make a big bump up from 38, then you're bumping Owen Griesbach from Judah Hammond, who he lost to at state, to Drew Wenzicki. So maybe they're expecting to pick up a win from Mason Seidel at 195. I didn't look at the numbers on how that duel would potentially look if that happened. But Grayson Clark in that spot against Marshfield just kind of leaves them between a rock and a hard place. And then, again, for Marshfield to pick up the bonus points. I mean, when it comes to matchups, Kaukauna is just kind of a matchup nightmare against anybody. Is there a path to victory for Marshfield? Yeah, but you got to have people step up, and I don't think it's a matter of getting bonus points necessarily. It's more like to stave off bonus points would be the tougher battle. And Kaukauna also has that same lineup where they have guys that know how to get bonus points. So what are your thoughts on those two duels, Steve?
Well, Matt has Kaukauna 41, Bayport 20, and if Kaukauna goes against Marshfield, he's got 44-18. I didn't make a prediction as far as score. Teague, I apologize. I'm going to bring back a little bit of painful memories to you, but we sat next to each other. Kaukauna and Holman wrestled each other at that particular time. The duel was kind of back and forth, and here's what I remember watching those Kaukauna guys. They're lesser guys, which this year don't have a lot of them, but their lesser guys just know how to wrestle in match situations, right? They know how to keep the score close, and a couple of times they got upset victories over Holman, and that propelled them to the state championship along with their studs. And I tell you what, those lesser guys at that time got better this year, so there's they don't have many holes, but I just think Kaukauna has been in this situation so many times that they've drilled in their head. Their guys know what they need to do in every situation. And you throw that in with their studs. It's you're absolutely right, Matt. It's they wrestle very well as a team. And that's what impresses me. That's what impressed me about them last year. And I think they're only going to take that to a new level this year. So any way you look at it, Teague, is Kaukauna coming out of this one.
A fun fact to note, though, if Kaukauna Marshfield didn't have any bumps, I think it would be 4 individual state rematches that we would see. Wow. And 38 was in the semis between Franklin and Clark. 45, Blaskowski was losing to Smith before he pinned him. 70, Hammond and Griesbach wrestled. I believe it was in the quarters. And then 60 was also that quarters matchup that went to the tiebreaker periods between William White and Crook. So not something you see often where there's 4 matches that happened the week before. There is state rematches and duels, but to that extent is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I'd like to see that William White Crook match again. That was intense. I was just zeroed in on that one.
All right, next going on to Division 2 here, Steve. We have Luxembourg Casco, the team state finalist from last year, taking on Evansville, who just missed out on team state last year, making it this year. And it's one the Luxembourg team this year is just crazy. When I started going through the duels, it really hits you how good this team is. And I do have Marshfield, Steve, or not Luxembourg winning 10 out of 14 with this matchup. That's with Owen Heiser in the lineup as well. So I have the Heiser brothers winning, and then Evansville picking up a couple wins at 220 and heavyweight. But Luxembourg just has a lineup where it's kind of tough to find where teams could steal wins against them. And did I say the score already?
I was waiting for it.
Oh, sorry.
Prediction.
I had a 40-17, and maybe Evansville could get to that 20-point mark too if they can get some more bonus points.
Yeah, I was stalling quick. I wanted to see Evansville's lineup just to kind of see what they're losing this year. Let me pop it up quick, Teague.
Well, hey, how about a potential state finals rematch at 32 if it comes to fruition?
Yeah, if everything. That's the only thing I have as far as guys that met each other at state. But overall, Evansville pretty young, and that's let's see. Wow, they're losing 5 starters, but I know they got. I keep talking about that middle school program they have. They have a great feeder program. Evansville's history. Let's run the tail of the tape here. 6 state champs. This is their first trip to team state since 2014. That was their first one. They lost to Ellsworth, as many people did at that time. 4 state qualifiers this year, two medalists. The only head-to-head matchup, as you said, Heiser beat Warwick at the finals at 132 pounds, 3-1. And Teague, Luxembourg Casco, let me start giving you their numbers as far as school history. It's crazy. 44 state champs in school history, 19 trips to team state. And I didn't run the numbers, but I think Luxembourg Casco has the best winning percentage of a team, other than a team that maybe went one time and went 2-0 or something like that. I didn't look at all that, but for a team that's been there that many times, they got to have the best, or maybe 10 or over or 5 over, the best winning percentage. Look at this team, Teague, 19 trips to team state, 12 championships, and 4 runner-ups. Only 2 times they did not come home with hardware. That was 08, they lost to Ellsworth by 5, and then in 04, they lost to Lodi. And this past year, 8 state qualifiers. Of their 8 state qualifiers, 7 of them placed. They went 17-13 on the weekend. This is just we talked about them last year, when they lost in the semis. They're just going to be a team on the mission. And your prediction is right on as far as 40-17.
All right, Steve, next up here we have also there's a little lineup bump Luxembourg can do that. I think they might have did at team sectionals, but I forgot to look at it. But we'll talk about that in the finals. Next up, we got Baldwin Woodville versus Prairie du Chien. PDC, who made the state last year, is the 2 seed. Baldwin Woodville is the 3 seed. I just got to say, and I'm sure you'll touch on it, just happy Baldwin Woodville that they broke through and made it to team state. They've had a couple really good teams the last few years, Steve, and now they finally broke through, and I think they have a good youth program, so I think they're going to be a threat for a while. For now, we'll enjoy the moment here at team state. This Baldwin-Prairie du Chien duel, it's going to be one of those duels that has a lot of good matchups. I think if they start in the lower weights, Baldwin could keep a lead and hold on to it for a little bit. Some fun matches right away. I mean, 126, even just looking at it record-wise, Cole Brosh and Drake Ingham. 132, Tyler Fink and Ryder Koenig. I know Fink was a state qualifier, but you can't count out Ryder Koenig from matches necessarily. And then at 145, Austin Schmidt and Drew Hurd could be another solid matchup. I do have Baldwin taking 2 out of 3 there. But then, Steve, in the upper weights, I just think this is a poor matchup for Baldwin Woodville. In that Prairie du Chien, I have them winning from 152 through 220. Even with Baldwin getting a pin at heavyweight potentially, I have the score Prairie du Chien 34, Baldwin at 22. And yeah, I do think even if it's a 12-point duel, it could be a good duel depending on what spot it starts at.
Yeah, Teague, these are 2 programs. It's kind of funny to think about that Prairie du Chien They've been good recently. It just feels like they've been good for so long. But historically speaking, it's two teams that one's kind of had a flash lately, the other one early on. But Baldwin Woodville, 13 state champs. This is their 6th trip to Team State, Teague, and they're the last, wait, that can't be right. The last was in 1996. You want to look that up for me, Teague? I might be wrong on that, but they have one championship. When's the last time that Baldwin Woodville qualified for Team State? Do you have that up there?
I could find it. Give me stall for 30
no, I got
45 seconds.
No, Teague, you don't have to. I have it up here right now. Nope, never mind. I don't. Go ahead. You're gonna have to solve. But what I'm saying is that Baldwin Woodville, they haven't been to Team State for a while. But let's figure out who they've been behind. They've been behind Ellsworth forever, and then most recently behind Amory. It's not that they're a bad program. They've just been stuck behind some pretty solid teams. But Prairie du Chien, this is their 4th in a row. I remember talking about them recently. We were all excited because them and Kiel, they were first-time Team State qualifiers. But they've been there now 4 in a row. They have 6 state champs in school history. Obviously, 4 of them coming from a 4-time champ. But 7 qualifiers this past weekend with 5 medalists. So I like the comparison of the teams, right? We have a team that last 4 years has gone to Team State, another one that hasn't been there for quite a few years. And I think this can be a fantastic matchup.
All right, moving on. Yeah, it was 1996, by the way. I saw they won a state title in 93, too.
Yep. 2 runner-up finishes as well. Matt Verbatim has it picked. Prairie du Chien 36, BW 24.
And then, Steve, that brings us to the final. 2 teams that just missed out on potentially taking out Amory last year. They both, I think Prairie du Chien ended up losing by 4. I know they had a forfeit in the last weight that they got, but Luxembourg lost by 6, I believe. And, yeah, I think talking to both coaches after we had Coach Chaz Tremmel on, both teams, I think they felt they had a chip on their shoulder after that one. Mike Rogie said, hey, you better not be picking against us in any form next year. And this was kind of the battle that I think folks were talking about all year. Obviously, Luxembourg and Freedom, that was the team sectional matchup. But when you look at the Team State, what it could have been, Luxembourg and Prairie du Chien, it just seemed like it was a collision waiting to happen. I should have looked at bi-state results and seen what Prairie du Chien Luxembourg matchups happened there. But, Steve, just running down this duel. So I do have potentially Luxembourg. Right now, with what I have on my spreadsheet, I have Luxembourg winning 7, Prairie du Chien winning 7. That's if Prairie du Chien can get wins at 220 and heavyweight, which could be potential swing matches there. So Prairie du Chien definitely needs to win those 2 matches. One thing both teams have in their back pocket for Prairie du Chien, they do have Maddox Shaka, who is on the roster. I don't know if he's wrestling for sure because he was injured at the start of the year. But state place winner last year. If he wrestles, maybe we see Prairie du Chien go big and bump Lenzendorf up and try to get a win against Wege and then try to get more for sure wins at 220 and heavyweight. But what Luxembourg has, and I know Matt's on, he could tell me if this is what happened with Freedom because I know they did a bump. You talked about this on an earlier show this year. Carson Blahowiak, who he's their backup at 106, a very good 106 pounder. They could put him in there, whether it be 106 or 113. I'm guessing probably 113 because Prairie du Chien has had a hole there most of the year. And they could bump everyone in their lineup up. I think I had them bumping up through a 152 to where Ronsman wrestles 52. And the mismatch in the lower weights, and especially the fact that Prairie du Chien, I mean, you can't guarantee Rhett Koenig getting bonus points against an Easton Warachek or a Caleb Delabrew, whoever he wrestles. He only beat Delabrew 5-3. I think this is Luxembourg's duel to lose coming in. There could be a couple things. I think Prairie du Chien needs a couple things to go their way if they want to win this one. So with giving Luxembourg the edge on paper, I have it 28-20. So a pretty low scoring one. I guess Luxembourg is my pick for Division 2.
Teague, when we did our sectional previews, I called my shot at that moment. Did I officially call it? I don't remember. I think I said nobody stopping Prairie du Chien, but then the old injury bug hit, which it hits most teams. And so I agree with your pick. I'm looking forward to this one. I know you and I are going to be calling the action. I'm looking forward to calling this one. But I think it's going to be a great chess match. And Teague, I'm only halfway through a bi-state, but I did find out that Easton Warachek and let's see, Rhett Koenig did wrestle Easton Warachek there. That was 138 pounds. And Rhett Koenig won 4-2. That's the only head-to-head matchup I've seen so far to this point between Prairie du Chien and Luxembourg.
Matt also brought up that that Barbeau was all conference at 120. Is that Reese Barbeau or Barbu? Sorry, Northeastern Wisconsin wrestling folks. But yeah, I guess I can check their lineup real quick because they have their lineup in now on track. But that just goes to speak of the Spartans' depth.
Yeah, right on. Well, while you look at that, a couple of people put their predictions on. Matt said yes. Matt said Luxembourg 33, PDC 27. Jeff Capianos, Jeff, sorry, I apologize.
Capinos?
Is that what it is? Oh, is that a no? Well, my eyes, man, I got to get glasses. But we'll just go with Jeff. Jeff says 31-30 LC.
Oh, that would be a fun one to see come to fruition. I think the big story of that one, Steve, is Luxembourg's going to get a lot of wins in the lower weights, maybe with bonus points, and then where Prairie du Chien is used to getting bonus points in the upper weights, Luxembourg could maybe either steal a win or they just won't give up as many. So that's it's a little bit of a matchup thing, but Luxembourg, again, just kind of a hard team to have a good matchup against. So that's what we have for Division 2. Moving on to Division 3, Steve, a tale as old as time, Fenimore, and not even as old as time, but in recent history, Fenimore versus Stratford wrestled each other 4 times in a row from 2016 to 2019 in the finals. They each won 2 championships. I think in 2020, Steve, they wrestled in the first round, and Fenimore won a barn burner there. And that led to, I think, a Fenimore-Coleman matchup in the finals. I think that might have been like one of the tiebreaker years or something. But, yeah. I mean, they've wrestled each other 5 times at Team State since 2016. So they come back. The teams are looking a little different this year as Fenimore, I can't even say they're at the peak of their powers. Who knows what this team's going to be bringing into the future. But yeah, I have Fenimore winning 10 out of 14 with this one. With Stratford getting their wins even, Steve, I didn't credit them with any bonus points. So Stratford, I think even if they can get the bonus points, it's just where do you find the chances where they can potentially get wins against this Fenimore lineup? I think is the tougher question for them. So I
loved your line, Teague.
What's up?
Go ahead. No, I just loved your line. How did you start that off? A tale as old as time?
Yeah.
That was good. That was nice. Nice job.
Yeah, and then I thought about it. I'm like, well, I guess it's been like 6 years, so maybe not. But
yeah. Well, go ahead. I interrupt. What's your score?
So I have Fenimore 39, Stratford 12, but I think that's leaving plenty of bonus points off. I left a lot of bonus points off the table with Fenimore. So yeah, that's my analysis for this duel.
Fenimore's good, and I wanted a quick look to see how many seniors Fenimore had because I think they're going to be good for a long time. But the stealthy Chad Stelt has yet to put his lineup on Track Wrestling, so I can't even check that out. But I'll go ahead and give my tail of the tape, Teague. Fenimore has had now, with their 3 this year, 10 individual champs as opposed to Stratford's 28. 8 trips to Team State, 3 championships, 3 runner-ups. This past year, you talk about a team that really performed at state. 8 state qualifiers, 6 medalists, 3 champs. They went 20-7 on the weekend. Teagan, they did have 2 head-to-head matchups at 145 and 182 with Stratford. And Stratford, we talked about, an elite program, right? How many individual state champs? They're one of those teams that are about ready to add, go to where not many teams are, and that's have 30 individual state titles, and right now sitting at 28. But they've been to Team State 10 times, 2 championships, 5 runner-ups, had 6 state qualifiers this past weekend with 3 medalists. Teague, and I'll just say this right now. I said it at the beginning of the year. I thought Fenimore is one of top 3 teams in the state, regardless of division, and that still holds true. I think they're a nightmare for whoever they wrestle, regardless of division.
Steve, Matt just said in the middle of my rambling, just say Fenimore. Matt, that's a fair point. You want to give every duel the same amount of respect in terms of breaking it down, but that did give me a little chuckle. He also said Shiocton versus Cedar Grove, which we're going to talk about next. It could be a good match. And then also said Stelt is crafty, which a fun Stelt story. I don't know if Joe Rager told you this, but at Team State last year, like we said, we don't know what the other coaches are doing. That's the big chess match aspect of it. But Joe moved Mason Will, who was a state place winner. They moved him up to 38. He was at 32 all year. And that's not something you and I think about when we're doing these, right? And
Right.
Chad came up to Joe before the duel, and he's like, so you moved Will up to 38 or what? And just him thinking about that, like that's crazy.
It's funny. Just even to ask that question, that's something.
Oh, man. That's good stuff. Next up, we got Cedar Grove, Belgium versus Shiocton. Steve, I'm excited for your tale of the tape on this one. We got Cedar Grove is the 3 seed. Shiocton is the 2 seed. Both winning great duels just to get to this point, Steve. And the battle between these two in the finals. So I have a 30-21 duel. And they both had a slew of state qualifiers. So if you saw those state matchups, you can fill me in. I do have Shiocton, and maybe I'm playing off the Coleman duel a little bit, but I have them winning 9 out of 14 here and winning 30-21. But here's the thing, Steve. I have a lot of 3-point matches, and I don't have a lot of bonus points. So if we see something with Cedar Grove, like that Iowa Grand Aquinas duel, where if it's a swing match and Cedar Grove gets a pin, then that's a huge swing in their favor. Also on that same note, if Shiocton happened to get bonus points somewhere in what is a swing match, bonus points I think are just going to be at a premium in this one. That's basically what I'm gathering from the score that I put down. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 7 of the 14 are coming down to decision. And I have Shiocton getting bonus points from 160 to 182 in some way, shape, or form. The one thing Shiocton did, because I don't think I saw that they didn't have an upper weight weighed in. I think it was like maybe at 95 or 220 or something. But what they did at team sectionals was they put Israel Sanchez in. He weighed in at 82. They bumped Neon Dion up to 95. The other Sanchez to 220, and Carlson was heavyweight, which means state qualifier Jordan Plattner versus, if it happens, Dion Helzer at 195. That could be a very big swing match. I have Cedar Grove with the edge in that one. Even looking in the middle, Mason Hoopman, I have him getting bonus points. I think he was the finalist at 145, I believe. I have him getting bonus points on Isaiah Carton, who was a state qualifier. So even those bonus points are guaranteed. Steve, I just think the long and short of it, I think Matt Verbaden said it best in one sentence. So both teams are scrappy, and this is just going to be a grind 'em out duel.
Yeah, Teague, I'm looking at the scores that you have, and I don't know how when you score a duel, when I give it a decision, which is only 3 points, that's kind of I'm leaning one way, but it's not, it's close, right? And to see that many decisions that you have posted, that means that there could be easily, it could go the other direction, right? I mean, we're going off records and maybe a little bit of head-to-head competition. So as I see you score this one, even though you have it as a 9-point match, I think this can be a real fun duel. I'm gonna give a shout out here. Matt said, and he's right. Shout out to, he said, 2 great young coaches. And I know we appreciate those young coaches as we get a little bit longer in the tooth. But Cedar Grove's Trevor Peterson and Shiocton's Dominic Gunderson, a couple of great young coaches. But let's go right into the tail of the tape, Teague. I know you've been waiting for it. Cedar Grove, Belgium, 5 state champs. This is their 3rd trip to Team State. And like Waukesha West, this is their first trip to Team State since 1997. They had 8 state qualifiers this past year, 3 medalists, a finalist in Hoopman. And, so Cedar Grove, Belgium, like Shiocton, was only losing 4 seniors this year. So let's not plan on them going anywhere. Shiocton, only 1 state champ in school history. Matt, help me out here. I think that's Jay Surprise, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong on that, but another great thing this year for Shiocton and many other first-year teams. Well, Shiocton's a first-year Team State qualifier, so congratulations to them. 8 state qualifiers individually, and they had 3 medalists. Like I said, both Cedar Grove and Belgium are losing 4 wrestlers for just kind of looking ahead to next year. But Teague, you asked about it. There were no head-to-head matches between Cedar Grove and Shiocton. At individual state.
For as many qualifiers as each had, that's crazy. But Steve, that brings us to Fenimore. So, maybe we should have looked at Fenimore and Cedar Grove a little bit, but I have Fenimore versus Shiocton.
Hold on, Teague. Brad just came on from the Vision Quest podcast, Brad Crook. Hey, I know and he says, I'm late. Hey, no worries, Brad. You missed it. Teague picked against Kaukauna in the finals. So just wanted you to know that.
Now we'll see if he really listens to the show.
Right.
Fenimore versus Shiocton in the finals. Steve, do we have another deja vu of team sectionals where we don't talk about the Cedar Grove Fenimore duel, and that's what happens? But this is the one I broke down a little more. With Fenimore in at Shiocton. Shiocton's a gritty team, right? They have plenty of guys that are capable of winning matches. That's what won them at the duel at team sectionals. They even have the guys that are capable of winning matches that maybe they aren't supposed to win on paper. I do have them potentially winning 5 matches here, Steve. Here's the thing. This is the difference between a gritty and just a really good team in general. Is Fenimore also has that grit, but they also have the guys that are going to get bonus points. And you got to be able to get/save bonus points if you're going to be a team state champion. I think right now that's one of the differences between Fenimore and Shiocton is not only do I have Fenimore winning 9, they just have a lot of guys that can win matches, but I also have them getting more bonus points. I don't think I had Shiocton picking up bonus points anywhere. So I have 34-15 in this initial prediction, and I think one thing Fenimore could do, I know Colton Shu and Dylan Hurd both good at 152 and 160. It'll be interesting to see what Coach Chad Stelt does with Max Miles and Tristan Stelt. Stelt's kind of at that level, Steve, so he did weigh in at 52 at team sectionals, and he's kind of at that level of wrestler now where you can kind of put him at whatever weight, and he can win against both guys, against 90% of teams in the state. So having that to play around with in a lineup is pretty nice for a Coach Stelt. And just in their lower weights, if there has to be a big difference maker here, the lower weights, I could see Fenimore winning from 106 through 132, and that's just hard to come back from. Ultimately, in conclusion, Fenimore has a really good wrestling team this year.
Wah, 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 wah. Fenimore wins, right? No, we saw that at teams. We saw that at team sectionals when they were wrestling Iowa Grant, and Fenimore just got on a roll, and you couldn't stop it. I mean, you could just feel that the dual meet was over after about 4 or 5 matches, and I think depending on where they start, you might feel that here. If it starts at low, like 106 pounds, this one's done. But, maybe Shiocton will get some momentum, especially if they start at 138. An individual matchup I'm really looking forward to, and that's kind of what, as I look at the matchups. But 195, Cameron Wolf and Neon Dion Helzer is one of those that I can't wait to see. And maybe a great way for Helzer to cap off a great career.
Well, Steve, that's what we got for Team State. The first time in almost a month, and we did a podcast in under an hour.
Under an hour. Nice job. Air high five, Teague. Way to go.
Oh, I guess on that note. Well, Steve, that's it for the Team State preview. I'm doing commentary the whole time, I guess. I'll be there for the D1 quarters, doing 2 mats, and then doing the semis for a mat. Doing D2, D3 in the morning. I think I covered 2 mats at once there, and then I don't know what we got for the finals, but you're going to be on the call as well, Steve.
Yeah, I'll be on there Saturday, so maybe Friday night I'll have to come up and give you a heck, buy you some Dippin' Dots. I'll be the third one to do it.
For your teams that made it to Team State, or even if you're just going to watch, if we haven't got gear from your team yet, bring your team merch there.
And hopefully, I don't know if Holly Farrell's listening at all, but we had a great time watching the Division I semifinals last night with her. Or, last year with her. So we just we shooed Randy away, and we just were talking to Holly. She's much more entertaining.
So it's gonna be a fun weekend. Bring your merch for us. Say hi. Last weekend of wrestling, Steve. Do you have anything else for the folks?
No, I'm excited. Can't wait for Friday.
Can't wait for Friday as well. A Team State recap coming next week, but let's enjoy the wrestling this weekend. Last weekend of wrestling in Wisconsin. Let's enjoy it, folks. And until next time, we will catch you on the flip side.